What is up, Thrive fam? CJ Finley here again with another episode of the Thrive on Life podcast. I'm tuning in virtually here today for a specific reason. One of my buddies, Kristian Elvina, is a dad, a husband, hybrid athlete, and with me getting close to opening up my world to being the dad portion, I wanted to bring him on to the show and kind of learn a little bit more of how I'm going to be able to balance it all. There's a story that I want to tell to start off with that kind of represents what Kristian is all about. And before I get into that, I just want to ask you, how are you doing here today, Kristian?
I'm doing great, man. That's my first time on a podcast, so definitely nervous. We've had those technical difficulties trying to get on there, but ready to rip.
Yeah, man, just treat it like sports. It's like you got that nervous butterfly energy. Once you get into it, though, you're just going to be in the zone. So just be as authentic and the most Kristian you can be. And that's all that the world is asking for. And I'm looking forward to all the value that you're going to be able to provide here today. But first story I want to kick off into is how we met. So anybody listening to this, Kristian and I are affiliated with Roan, and they had asked us to run a 150-mile relay from Los Angeles to San Diego all within a day. And we had a sprinter van with Roan, and we had other teammates. And Kristian showed up. And not only did he show up prepared to run this race, but he was actually nursing and rehabbing a knee injury. So it was inspiring just to get off the starting line with him powering through his injury. But once we finished this race, it was literally from like 3 a.m. one day till 11 p.m. the next day. And then we ate, and then we probably got in bed around 12, 1 a.m. I had found out that you had actually booked an earlier flight. You pushed your flight up earlier so that you can get home to your son and your family. And I was really inspired and motivated by that because I was feeling like trash. Like it was a really long day. And just the fact of thinking about getting on a flight super early in the morning, right after we have done that, that was an enormous feat thinking about it to me. But now that I'm preparing for having a child and thinking like, okay, the faster I can get home, the more I can spend time with him, it relates. But I really wanted to dig into, was there a transition in your mind that happened prior to having a child to when you did that like kind of allows you to push to that next level?
Honestly, I feel like the transformative moment for me didn't come before being a father or even during the first year of being a father. It took time. When you brought up the fact that I booked that early flight, I don't even remember it. I just remember waking up and saying, "Oh wait, I have an opportunity to get back home to." I think we had like a Halloween event at a local mall, so I was like, "Well, shit, I, I can book a flight, get my ass over there, and not miss that opportunity with my family." When I first became a father, it was so he was born November 11th, 2019, and I spent that entire year going through a bucket list. And it was, I don't think it was the healthiest way of going about it, but it's just kind of how I handled it. It was like, all right, well, these are the things I can do before I become a dad, and life completely changes. And it scared me. And, when he was born, it definitely changed my life. It changed my perspective, but I don't think I changed in the way I needed to be. I was still, drinking a lot. I was still going out with my buddies. I was still making decisions that put myself before my family, and it was an unhealthy thing for me. I think, as crazy as it sounds, the best thing that could have happened to me was the pandemic because gym shut down. I was at home for 6 months, and I had a lot of one-on-one time with my son, and as devastating as that was for the world, it was life changing for me. So,
Wow. That super relatable. I want to know, what were some of the things on your bucket list?
um, no, I mean, I love golf, and I'll never change that. So it was playing like every different like golf course. I think I played 76. No, I know I played 76 rounds in 2019. So I was gone every weekend, and those are things that like I was just thinking about myself. I wasn't thinking about Nicole. I was thinking about like her needs and her needing to have someone, or thinking about the emotions that she's going through and the hormonal changes. Those are things that I'm cognizant of now. But at the time in 2019, it was just, all right, well, look, what do I need to do? Like, I was going out with my buddies. I had a dad's party. I flew to Austin, then flew to, like, your home is on my bucket list. Damn, I need to visit you.
I
Uh,
love that.
so no, I flew to Austin, was there for a night, then flew to Vegas, and then we were gonna fly to Chicago, but then we nixed that and stayed in Vegas, and then flew back, and it was just a whole bunch of things that, like, I said I needed to do, and I think that was just, my mindset at the time was just being, I guess, more selfish, and really catering to the vices that I thought were important to me.
Yeah, thank you so much for your honesty. Wow, like you're killing it on your first podcast already just by being vulnerable and opening up about that, because not everybody would be willing to do that, and people are going to learn the most because that's just human nature. Like I'm constantly questioning, balancing. There's stuff that I do need to do. I think you mentioned like the needs of yourself. And I think a lot of people in parenthood, from what I've seen, actually lose their own needs. And there's a saying like, be selfish to be selfless. So I don't think it's an innate problem that you were selfish in some ways, but I think, like, pun intended with the golf, like you can take too many swings on one side or the other. So it's like, did you need to do 76 rounds, or could you have done 20 and still like fulfilled your need? The time has passed. We don't know that. You can only live and learn from what you have gone through. And I really respect the fact that you were able to bounce back and learn from those experiences to shift your mindset. Was there any books or podcasts or things that you did to shift your mindset? Or was it something that you just woke up one day and were like, holy crap, like I was being selfish and I needed to change my ways? Like, was there any tipping points or things that helped you along the way?
No, I know that, my wife would be comfortable enough with me talking about, like, some of the struggles that we had with our relationship. When you become a parent, it is, now you're putting that person ahead of yourself, right? And you need to. It's not a choice. Like, I mean, we need to do it. Like, and I think we lost touch with who we were as partners, and then I don't know. Like, I honestly, like, it was the struggles that we had with each other and the struggle that we had with communicating with each other. Where it would just turn into one of us breaking down, one of us shedding tears, one of us, getting a bit too loud, and not really. It was just a pent up frustration. And I think that, once we realized that, like, hey, we need to come to the table, we need to talk. That's what's going to make us better partners, and that's what's going to make us better parents. And when I took some notes and just kind of went through a timeline of, what I went through during that time, and I feel like, in taking the notes, and I didn't write it down, it was probably like 2021. At this point, my son is a year and a half, 2 years old, and that's when I realized that I started communicating with my wife a bit more. Just checking with her, as simple as, hey, this is what I'm planning to do. What are your thoughts? And, hey, what are your plans? Or asking her, hey, what do you need to get done this week? And it was more long term in 2021, but now it's like, every week we're like, all right, what's our weekly plan? What are our long term plans? Can we do this? Can I fit this in my schedule? So still having the opportunity to take care of myself, and my needs, and what I want to do, like, physically, and that, but also being mindful of her time and what she needs to do. So
So simple in theory, but not easy to do. And
yeah.
practice week in and week out. It is work. And I think people, especially those that are single right now, like relationships, the thriving ones are that way because of the work that you put in. You don't just, like, it's not like a puzzle piece that just fits and it stays glued together forever. It's something that you're constantly wiggling and figuring out how to put the work in to continue to have that relationship, as new variables like children enter it. And what you're talking about hits home with me because when I first got to Austin, like the place that was on your bucket list, I thought I had to be this person that was like striving to be the next big entrepreneur, social media, connecting people, building communities. And what I thought the cost of that was, what I needed to do was just be out and about every single night, every single weekend, spending time building the different communities and brands that I was affiliated with. And I wasn't thinking about my relationship and like what Erin actually wanted and what our goals were. It was just my goals and then her goals. And I thought that by me focusing on myself and putting all this energy into my goals, eventually that would lead to us having a better relationship because I could do things for her that I wouldn't have been able to do before. But what I ended up realizing, and this is because she addressed it through various methods and arguments and conversations, and you mentioned like getting a little bit loud and things like that. It happens to the best of us. And one thing that I vividly remember is just having a conversation over, like, she didn't need anything from me other than inclusion and time. And you mentioned like involving her in that conversation of, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? I think as men, like, we're just not conditioned to act in that way because we want to hunt. Like, we want to be the person that's like, here's where we're going. We're taking the whole tribe here, but that's just not reality of how to have a really strong relationship. You need to be inclusive in the conversations you're having of like, what are the goals of the entire family? And how do I support that? But then also what you had mentioned is like fulfill those needs. I'd love to kick this into a different gear here because you're such not only an inspiration in that realm, but like with your fitness, like, dude, you're fucking strong and you can run. And the people that I look up to fit both of those molds. And not, I think there's a lot of vanity out there right now with the different programs you could be following and the different things you could be doing, especially in the hybrid fitness realm. But not many people do I see that are as strong as you, and then also out there potentially running half marathons, signing up for high roxes. So give myself and the audience a little bit of the backstory of how did you build up those strength and get so involved with hybrid fitness?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a natural evolution for me. I was an athlete growing up, but before I became an athlete, I was a chubby, bullied kid. And as a result, I think that gave me a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I remember when I first stepped into the gym, it was seventh grade, and I immediately squatted 225. And for me, that was, I remember watching World's Strongest Men, and in my backyard, I would stack up chairs and like lift it and like, see how many chairs I could stack up. So that was kind of that foundation for me. But then I found that, strength training would help me become a better athlete. And, as that evolved, after I played football in high school, briefly in college, I kind of lost my way, weighed as heavy as 240 to 250 pounds. And then I got back into the fitness world by, becoming a personal trainer, and went down the, yeah, I mean, you talked about vanity. I went down the road of, was it like bodybuilding? And I did, men's physique competitions. I placed in third in national competition, one spot away from my pro card. And then from there, it was like, all right, what's the next competition? Like, that's how I'm wired. I need a competition, or that's how I was wired. Like, I was very much a lone wolf, trained by myself, and I've had that chip on my shoulder. I think that's from, being that kid, being that person who's bullied. It was, let me prove myself to everybody else. Let me show them that I can do things naturally, and I can be better than anybody else. Went into the world of powerlifting, and my goal was to break the state deadlift record. Did that, was the state champion in 2018, and then I was done with it. It was like, all right, there's no goal. And then come 2019, it was, going through the motions, playing golf. My son was born, and I really didn't know what to do with myself. And I was still very outwardly healthy, but inwardly, I mean, 2021 was when I had my physical, and they said I had high cholesterol and I was pre-diabetic. I mean, you'd look at me and you wouldn't think that, but that's the cocktail that I was given by my family and my genetics and whatnot. And finally, I said, I've been avoiding running because it's hard. Like I can't run a 9.5 minute mile like without gasping for air. And finally, I said, all right, I need to start doing hard things. And I just said, fuck it. So that's and then eventually, and I was dabbling in things, and like a duathlon, triathlon, sprint ones, you're running maybe 2 miles at a clip, and I can run at that, and have 185 beats per minute, and then you'd be gasping for air at the end. But then when we were invited to that roan thing, it was like, oh, I need to actually run, and that was that I say to this day, like that I saw it online. I think it was Jesse Itzer. He talks about Misogi and having that. That was a very transformative moment for me. Like being around like some amazing athletes like yourself and the rest of the crew. I mean, you guys are just killing it and just moving like gazelles. And I said to myself, I was like, that's the next step. That's what I want to do. And yeah, just change my perspective on things.
Yeah, so much relatability in your story there, especially like with the competitiveness of like jumping from thing to thing and wanting to be competitive at whatever you're doing. It's definitely a trait I've been attracted to, and I want to surround myself with that. But it can be something that is also an issue, like you were describing, where it's just like it's this never ending prophecy that you can just never be happy with what you have in front of you. And I'd like to dissect a little bit of, you said something there. You were the deadlifting champ. Like, describe what that
Yeah.
even is. So,
Yeah, no. So there's like state records for the USAPL, and I randomly, posted a deadlift video at the gym, and one of my trainers was like, "Hey, boss, why don't you join the competition?" So I looked into it, and I said to myself, I was like, "All right, I'm going to break the state deadlift record." So, it took me about a year and change, and I pulled 623. Broke the state record at the time. I think it's been broken a couple times.
is this by weight
Um,
class?
yeah, so I weighed 180 for that. Yeah.
Jesus. And
Yeah.
what was your protocol to work up to that? Were
Uh,
you like, did you have a coach? Do you have programming, or were you just
no,
like,
I mean
I'm
that's
just going to
like
go
I
in and
said,
do
I was
this?
that lone wolf, right? I love programming for myself. I have my background. Yeah, I must be SDS. I have my background is in, uh, training athletes. I was over at Rutgers with strength and conditioning. So, being able to create that program, like I love the science of building my programs and kind of seeing how like I can transform myself. So yeah, I pieced some things together, saw what sticks for me. I don't do many traditional accessories with powerlifting. Like I still love training like an athlete. I love my power cleans. I love doing plyometrics. So a lot of my accessories were movements like that. Like it was a program that was built on speed and moving heavy weights with speed, and that's what got me to it. So.
Where has the competitive mindset and the want to excel at everything that you're doing with that chip on your shoulder, where's that hurt in your life? Where's that caused problems and issues?
I think it was toxic in the sense that I shut off others from, like it was my success and no one else's. I didn't share that experience with others. When you look at the powerlifting community, you see a lot of people who are part of teams, and even going back to bodybuilding, like a lot of people have their coaches, and they had their teams, and they shared that, they celebrated with their team. For me, it wasn't something I celebrated by myself, and maybe a few close others, but I looked at it as just my accomplishment and no one else's. And I think that again, like I go back to that Roan event and no shortcuts, like that was transformative for me because it was everything that I did or didn't do affected the team. And it went back to, team sports. And then I realized like it's been, 15, 20 years since I've been, or yeah, 15 years since I've been part of a team sport and, that shared success. And I was so far away from that. And going through that no shortcuts event got me back to that, and be wanting to be part of a team, and sharing success with others.
Yeah, I was on a podcast yesterday, and the sharing of success and communication and some of the things that we're talking about here today apply to like longevity. So you mentioned some of the health issues that might arise in your future because of predisposition through your
Mm-hmm.
genetics. And one of the things for males we were discussing on the podcast was males die sooner than women. And we were diving into why that is. And one of the major reasons is because men are so solo when they get into old age. They lose their community and they lose their camaraderie and their ability to like have the locker room. And I think it's starting at an earlier and earlier age, unfortunately. Like I can remember my dad when he like well before my brother and I were born was like in bowling leagues, and there was a lot of socialization. There was no internet. So you sought out to be in communities. And with the rise of the internet and social media, it's easier and easier to kind of just like solo off. And then not only that, you're incentivized to like post your win up on social media, but you can have this empty feeling because there is no one there to celebrate with. And I love that it was transformative for you because it was validating for me. I had already like kind of known that like just being in Austin, if you live here, it's very community driven and like goal driven as a team. That's one of the reasons that drew me here and keeps me here. And when I went to the No Shortcuts event, it was awesome to see people like myself who like don't run push themselves. So like even when we were there, like I did really well. I had people on social media and a couple of buddies of mine, Ryan Callan, shout out to you. Like he was like, dude, your times are really good. And in my head, I'm just like, well, it's like 7-minute miles. Not that great. Right. But it was a reminder of holy shit. Like 2 years ago, I couldn't even run a mile at this. And now we're like out here all day, lack of nutrition because we're just eating grocery store pick-me-ups and stuff like that. And I'm also spending energy meeting people. Like I think that goes without being said. That goes into something that isn't really talked about or thought about when you're in those events. Is like not only are you spending the time and energy running, but like you're with new people and you're spending energy on them, with yourself. And to be able to do that, the feeling that it gave me was just like, again, seeing you power through, like knowing that you're this dude that's pulling almost 700 pounds, but then you're out there running miles through like the California hills, and then seeing Cam, who's like not necessarily a runner, do it as well. And then we feed off each other's energy. It was just validation for me, like, holy shit, this is a path that I need to go down. And that's why I'm excited, because I just saw that you were training for High Rocks, and High Rocks has been a huge piece of my life the past couple of years, where I've really just attached my goals in that arena to other people's goals, like doing doubles and then helping other people learn and like hit podiums and things like that. Cause we get to have these experiences. When you go to the High Rocks, you'll see it's just like this large, like it's almost like a concert for people that love to do the stuff that we do. And reason I'm bringing High Rocks up now is, now that you have shifted into this new mindset a little bit and are adapting your goals and spending a little bit more time on being aware, what are the future goals for you? So you've clearly done a little bit of a lot and been very successful at it. But now that you're kind of recalculating how to shoot your bow, like where are the arrows intended to be going?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, High Rocks is in the horizon. I want to kind of gauge my experience there. I think I talked to Cam the other day, and I said to him after a High Rocks workout, I put myself in. I'm like, "Why are we doing this, dude?" And and he goes, "I don't know. You asked me." And I said to him, "Well, I didn't expect you to say yes." He goes, "What's that mean?" So yeah, it's hat kidding. So I mean, it's exciting and being part of a community, and then being around. I did the 4x4x48 with a bunch of people, and that was wild. And again, in a group setting, there were 12 of us that did that, and a lot of them are participating in the High Rocks events and just picking their brains and getting an understanding of like what they've been through and the type of training they go through. That that definitely excites me. So maybe there's a path there that I'll continue to go down. But in the near future, yeah, I got my first marathon planned for October, the AC marathon, and then I also want to do a ultra marathon. One of my buddies, Alan, like, and we reconnected. So me and him, we didn't see eye to eye when we worked together, and then all of a sudden we reconnected. He's the owner for Hollow Labs, and we reconnected, just going through like some supplementation and all that. And then all of a sudden I was running 21 miles in the mountains with him, and did a snowshoe race with him. So he's planning on running the New Jersey section of the Appalachian Trail. I think it's 76 miles. So I'm going to do a portion of that with him, whatever he needs me to do. And then eventually I'll get myself to that point. But those are some things that are in my sight.
Heck yeah. I signed up for my first ultra recently.
Oh, nice. Where at?
50K Lake Norman. My brother and his wife live in North Carolina, right outside Charlotte. And I had a guy on my podcast, my buddy Jeff. I asked him what his first ultra was, and he said Lake Norman. And I was like, holy shit, like Lake Norman, North Carolina. He's like, yeah. I'm like, damn, I guess this is the one that I got to sign up for, because my brother lives right there. So I'll have access to like sauna and ice a couple days prior to that getting adjusted. And then right after the race, I'll be able to do that as well, and like have them cheering me on there. So I'm very excited about that. And something that I get asked by people, and I'd love to ask you, is like, how do you balance it all? So you're clearly continuing to put a lot of energy into your training. And now that you kind of have this new lens to look at through your relationship with your wife and your son, is there any tools and tactics that you're using for balance, or is it more just a gut thing?
No, I mean, you touched on the like sauna and ice, right? And when I remember seeing like you and Cam do the ice bath, and then I traveled down that road, and I hate the cold, and it was something I did because I know I got injured because I spent too much time running on the treadmill. So went down that road, and then realized that it was all the benefits of it, and then it got me down the road of just searching for different avenues of improving my longevity. So then it was me starting a journal and just writing down the time wasters and the toxic things that I had in my life. So I cut out drinking. I think I've had 2 drinks since Christmas.
That's amazing.
Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. No, I mean, I remember you posting about it was like a ginseng, no, not ginseng, ginger based thing that you posted about. I remember seeing that, and I was like, oh, maybe I can do that. And I saw a couple of people drinking like athletic brewing, and then I finally said, you know what? Like, my sleep is shit. Like like I wear the Whoop. I got the information. When I see it in the morning and I'm yellow or like red, I know what I did. And so yeah, I mean, just going through like a whole list of all the things that were just wasting my time, and then from there, just all the things that were negatively affecting my mood or my sleep, and then just getting rid of them, just going cold turkey, and then making those changes. So then it's just, all right, now what are my daily steps? Like, what is when I wake up, what's my protocol? So it's wake up, cold plunge, shower, cold shower, then attack the day, and everything is like mapped out. Like, I go through my whole schedule. Like, I go through 4 week blocks. And so I know everything I need to do, whether it's, with my family, with Nico, the things I need to do on a daily basis with, watching them or picking them up or anything like that. And then from there, I'm filling in the block. And then my training is all planned around there. So everything's pre-planned. Nothing is not blindsided by anything. And if, I'm scheduling a meeting or a call, like, I'm not sliding any of those things around. Like, this is what I need to do and get done, and that's how I fit everything in. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Have you ever heard or watched the video of the guy putting rocks and sand in a jar? Like, where they fill the big rocks first and then they put it with pebbles.
Oh no, yeah, I've heard it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's cool because you're just like naturally doing that, where you're talking about like you're blocking off and making sure that your pillars get hit first and then filling in around that. I think going into fatherhood, that's going to be my biggest struggle, because my pillars are going to change. It's my pillars have always been, okay, like my fitness comes first. So I'm going to kind of adjust and adapt my day around when am I running and training. And it's going to be a little bit different. I've literally already started practicing this. Like, I don't like running on the treadmill, but I've been practicing like watching YouTube videos on the treadmill while I'm running, because when he's first born, his bedroom and his environment, I'm going to need to be around. I can't like go and run for an hour and a half if he's like here by himself, but I can run in my garage, right? So like training myself to kind of make the pillar, I need to be with him, but then how do I also kind of navigate? I still need to train because that makes me the best me. So I'm like finding ways to trick myself into enjoying the treadmill and doing other little things. What does Kristian do for fun like these days? What are some of your hobbies that maybe other people don't know about, or things that you invest some time and energy into outside of being a fucking stud athlete?
No, I mean, my training is fun, but outside of there, I mean, golf. That's really still my thing. I mean, we talked about me playing 76 rounds last year. I think I had maybe 20 rounds, but that, like you said, that fulfilled that need, and I that was with that.
Why do you love golf?
Why do I love golf? Because it's hard. Again, it was, maybe having that individualistic approach and me just wanting to, like I program I have my kettlebell and rotational day, core rotation day, and that's specific for my golf swing and just building speed. Like that's how, yeah, fucked up in the head I am. And I didn't pick that up until after college. I'm down to like a 3 handicap. So I know I continue to chase that. And I know maybe it's just not the norm. You see someone like me or built like me, it's like, oh, like, there's no way he's good at golf. And yeah, I love it. It'll never be easy, but I'll continue to break down my swing and break down, portions of my game and try to work at it.
How do you decide to pick things up and put them down? Because you've tried a bunch of different things. So one of the things I've struggled with over the years is when I get really good at things, I tend to like stay doing them. So like with soccer, I got really good at it and I stayed doing it, I think, far too long because I attached my identity to that thing. But how does Kristian know when to, okay, I've done this a lot, I've gotten good at it, I've kind of mastered it, I want to drop it and move on to something else?
I think I still struggle with that. It's hard for me to get rid of or stop doing certain things and stop doing the powerlifting thing. Part of my mind, like last year, I think I was maybe not focused enough. I did a duathlon, then a powerlifting meet, and I did another duathlon within a 6 week period, just to see how I could do it. But I don't know. I'm probably the worst person to ask that. I think I just naturally,
It means you're the best person to ask it. I
it's
still struggle with it. To
yeah, it's a continued struggle. Like I think setting those goals and setting it for a year at a time. That's kind of how I work. Like I like doing, like, my birthday is on December 22nd. So right on my birthday, it's just natural for me to just kind of reassess things, kind of see what my plans are for the year and what my goals are and what holds value to me. I thought maybe last year that I'd go down the road of powerlifting again, but it just wasn't, as I was exposed to running and exposed to those communities, and then getting into like high rocks and training for that. Like it's opened my eyes to the harder part of fitness. I think like lifting weights has always come easy to me, and I think I've seen a post where you just said like choose to do the hard, choose to do hard things, and I spent way too much of my time choosing to do the things that are easy to me, and I'm done with that. And if I come in last place during any of these events, it is what it is. Like my mindset has shifted, man.
I my first high rocks I ran solo. I did an hour and like 44 minutes, which is wild. And then I
Yeah.
improved that time over and over and over again. And it made me realize like I enjoyed, if I think back, yes, it sucked. And at the moment I was like, I'm never doing this again. But it transformed my mind because I realized, well, I enjoy this way more than being able to like I'm really good at the bench press for my size. Like it's cool that I can rep out 100 over my weight on the bench, but like what's cooler is getting my ass kicked and then figuring out, okay, how can I improve upon that? I'm more addicted to that feeling. And when I look back on my life, I'm like, how many times did I not give myself the opportunity to have this feeling because I just stuck to what was comfortable? Because when you're a natural athlete like yourself, like you're just, and you have that grit and that chip on your shoulder. I had the same thing, except I was like diminutive. I was very small. So I had to fight for every inch. Like if you ever seen the Al Pacino in what is that football movie? Al Pacino's the coach, but he talks about like you have to fight and
Any
die.
Given Sunday.
Yeah, you have to fight and die for every inch. That was my life, like growing up, and it put a chip on my shoulder where it was like as soon as I got really great at things, I just relied heavily on them, and I could pick things up and do fairly well at them. But then as I got older, I started realizing like there's some things out there that I'm not going to be that great at when I first start. Like podcasting is one of them, or video recording, or high rocks. There's certain things that I would come into it thinking I'm going to be great, and then I just absolutely get my ass kicked. And that's where the learning lessons really are. And I'd love to parlay this into, okay, so now that you know this, and we know that these are where the lessons are, and I'm about to have Aiden, my son, one of the things that I've thought about is like, what could I expose him to where, yeah, I know that I'm going to tell him all these things, but like most of the time it's going to go in one ear, out the other. That's just human nature because I'm the dad figure. But what can I expose him to so that he learns principles and stories and lessons through the things that he was exposed to? So for your own son, have you thought about this? Like, what are you planning to kind of introduce him to over the next couple years? Because you've had such a variety of experience. What have you pulled from that to then invest into him?
I think I've I don't think it was purposefully, but I've exposed them to, our lifestyle. Naturally with the pandemic and me being at home, like I built a golf simulator in my basement, and I was just hitting golf balls all the time into a stream. Like I would literally, like during when he would feed, I'd set up his table, put the food there, and he would watch me hit golf balls. There's a video of him like in his little like bouncing thing, and he would be like 2 feet away from me, and I would hit a golf ball, and he would just giggle. And when he was 11 months and standing, he had a golf club in his hand, and he was hitting golf balls. So he was just naturally just exposed to that, and then just with our workouts, like you're set because you got your garage gym, and you have that entire setup, and your child is going to see that and be exposed to that, and you said your best yourself, like it's going to go in one ear and out the other, but those actions, they leave an imprint, and you don't even realize it. Like I talk about like making those choices and those change into habits and behaviors, and then your children mirror that. And the perfect example was the other day. I'm down there. I'm deadlifting. Nicole's on the Peloton, and then Nico like runs upstairs. So he runs upstairs, and then he grabs his little like basketball, and then he lays on the ground, and he starts throwing the ball up in the air. And then she looks at me, and I was like, oh my God, because the day prior I was prepping for my bench work, and I always do. I lay down on the ground, and I do explosive med ball tossing, and he just mimicked that. And 2 weeks before that, like we were standing downstairs, and all of a sudden he just hits a burpee. So like I called Nicole. I'm like, did you teach him how to do a burpee? She's like, no, I taught him how to do a snatch, but I didn't teach him how to do a burpee. I was like, oh my God, like you learned how to do a burpee watching us. So I see that like all the time. Like he had that dumbbell snatch, and like some random exercises that he just does. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything specific. Like we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. Like we'll have him like we're gonna have him participate in like a whole bunch of sports, and whatever sticks sticks. Like we tried a soccer thing. Right now he's in swim school. Like so he's wearing his goggles like in the bathtub, and like he's jumping. Oh yeah, it's so awesome. But just seeing him experience that, like I he was very good at golf, like from the get go. If watch Nico Golf on Instagram, you can check it out. Like his golf swing is great. But then he just was more interested in dinosaurs and monster trucks. So like I'm not going to be that type of person who's going to say you have to do this, because I like it. But these are the things you're doing. What expose me into like health and wellness, and a whole bunch of different sports, and whatever sticks. Hopefully, it's something that'll help me retire quick.
I love that you're doing that. Me and my wife joke. Her dad was really good at soccer, and I was really good at soccer. We're like, oh, we might have like a little Olympian World Cup athlete on our hands, but I don't even. I asked you that question because it's like I don't even know if I'm going to introduce him to soccer, like because yeah, it was just so much a part of my life, and I just feel like now that I'm running and doing some other hybrid type of stuff, like late weightlifting wasn't introduced my life until I was in the teenage years. It's just like, man, there's so many paths that we could expose him to. I love how you're just like doing whatever's natural. And I think I'm going to take that advice with me after this podcast is not really overthink it. Just do what comes natural and let the world kind of dictate that a little bit based on where we're at in any given year and what we are enjoying. And that's where I don't think this gets talked about enough because especially what I've been hearing is just like, oh, are you ready? Are you ready to not to sleep? Or like just all the like things that people throw on you. But no one asked me about like, what are you going to be most joyous about? And all the joy that comes with it and the bliss. And I'd love to ask you that, like what unexpected joy and bliss has having a child brought into your life that you weren't necessarily expecting prior?
I think that I am a better person all around. I mean, it almost sounds cliche, but it took the 2 years, the 3 years. He's 3.5 now for me to realize that like everything I do is on stage. He is taking every action and he is watching it and he's processing it and he's gonna mimic and mirror some of them. And for me, I realized that I needed to become the man I want my son to be. Right? I was so far away from that, and every day I'm just looking to take steps towards being that person I want my son to become. And yeah, I mean that's just how I've approached it, and that just seeing him grow up and seeing him, the back talk and just how witty he is, and like having these conversations and just how he has just his memory and how he doesn't like forget a damn thing. It's insane, and I just love every bit of it. It's just I mean, He's been pestering me about like a Monster Gym truck for like a week and a half because I told him I ordered it on Amazon. He's like, "Oh, can we check? Is the mailman here yet?" I'm like, "Oh God!" I'm like, "I guess I lied to him." So we went to Target yesterday. But yeah, I mean,
Yo,
it's
he
how
got
simple. I
you.
can't really. Yeah, I'm so soft. It's the worst.
That's one of the things that my mom talks about is like she couldn't pull a fast one on me. Like like because she'll talk about you'll start realizing like you think as a parent like you know what you're doing, and then they know the kids know even when they're really young. Like you can't really pull anything on them. So that brings a smile to my face because some of the things I talk about with Aaron is just like, man, if he's half of what I am, man, I'm in for it because just like all the karma is gonna come back in a good way.
We do that all the time. Like if Nico does something and we'll look, I'm like, that's you. And then she'll point around, wait, no, that's you. And we're just it's just shaking our head and like, we have to address it, but then it's kind of like laugh at things.
Yeah, you start realizing like then the relationship I had with my parents, like when I would get in trouble when I was growing up, a lot of the times, like behind closed doors, they were just laughing about it, but they had to do something to teach me the principle and the learning lesson in that moment. But the reality is when you're in our shoes now, it's really just like, oh shit, I created that. How do I go about maybe like mitigating this so that it doesn't
Yeah.
keep happening in the future and maybe not get passed down to further generations. But we're getting close to wrapping up here. I'd love for you to kind of give you an opportunity to just talk about a little bit about what you do. We haven't touched on that at all today, and like what you do for your career, what your aspirations are, what your like long-term goals are. And then that way, anybody that's kind of in the same field or is interested in the stuff that you're interested in and working towards, maybe you can collaborate, connect. That's what we're always looking to do here at Thrive.
Yeah. So I'm the director of training for Jersey Strong. It's a chain of health clubs, 11 clubs throughout New Jersey. Been, basically just run the day-to-day operations and sales with personal training. Um, yeah, I started there 12 years ago, and I started as a trainer and just kind of ascended through the ranks. And yeah, I mean, we touch about like who I am as a person, and kind of like what, as far as my aspirations, like, yeah, looking at the social media world, like we're using it as a platform. At first it was a platform in which I could share my accomplishments, but now I just use it as a platform to share just what I do, and hopefully can help people along the way. I think on the thing that I sent you, I just want to use it as a platform where I can help, other moms and dads help shape, you know, future moms and dads. Just kind of exposing the health and wellness, and like, and whether you take it's a takeaway that you can take with your training or with running or with, just your overall well-being. I just want to, just share everything I can out there, help some people along the way. Just, no cost to them. It's just, here's the info, take with it what you can, and just hopefully be a better person. And that's it.
I love that. So what, dial a little bit into just, I'm curious, what is Jersey Strong? Like when did it start and what's the mission of the company?
Yeah, I mean, we started in, ooh,
Because
I
12
think
years, that's a
the
while,
first
man.
club. Yeah, I've been with them. Yeah, I mean, I think 2000 or earlier than that was like the first gym, and like Tin Falls and whatnot. But I honestly, like, I was on the fence with what I wanted to do with my life. I know that I was like gaining weight. I was doing like some random jobs and whatnot. Weighed about, like, again, like 230, 240, and then my brother told me about the gym that he went to, and he was like, "Hey, they're looking for trainers." And I thought I was going to go down the road of like getting back to school and like getting into physical therapy. But then, when I went down that road, I was able to, affect lives and change people's lives, go through the training, and like, and it was very weird for me at first, training individuals who were high level athletes and, Division I level athletes, and then going into a world where you got people who are just completely sedentary. But then seeing the transformations and then building the relationships, it was amazing to me. I haven't trained anybody in about like 6, 7 years now, but continuing to bring on board those individuals, at my clubs who are, fitness minded, who've gone through their own transformations, who want to share their experiences and want to continue to educate themselves and help others. I think our motto is, live life in a body you love. That's, you got one body, and we want to do what we can in order to help you live life in a body you love.
Live life in a body you love. I love how simple that is. And
Yeah.
it hits home with me. It's like a lot of my life, my transition into where I'm at in Austin and building Thrive on Life. I didn't love my body. I felt sick a lot and I drank a lot because of that to numb some of the pain. And I just didn't like who I was becoming. And really that question of how do I work towards building a body that I love to be in each and every day. And that'll allow me to show up as the person that I'm meant to become. And like, is just going to have a much greater positive ripple effect. So I love that that's the slogan, because I think too many people don't appreciate the industry, personal training industry and the gym industry. enough for the impact that it can have on people. Yes, we put a lot of emphasis on like, if someone's like, oh, I work at Apple or I work at in print like corporation, it seems like people just give immediately a higher regard for that person. But the reality is that the backbone of this world is the service industry and people that are helping other people become better human beings and loving who they are. Because if that person loves who they are and showing up in that body as somebody that they love to show up as, they're going to spread positive energy. And that is how our world is going to become a better place. So I think we'll end there. We'll get towards the last couple questions that we always ask everybody. First one is, how can people connect with Kristian? If they loved what you heard here today, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
You can connect with me on my Instagram page at KJUtraining, or shoot me an email, kjutraining@gmail.com. Those are the simplest ways to connect. And obviously, if there's if there's further need to communicate from there, my lines are open. So.
Awesome. Last question that I always ask everyone is, if you were to define the word thriving, what does it mean to you?
Define the word thriving.
No pressure, just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. No, I think it's just being successful, and whatever that level of success to you is, and then whatever that measuring stick, it's attaining what you set out to. That's what thriving is. If you're not, but if you're going through life and you're setting goals and then, missing the target and just setting another goal and going through and being real cyclical about that, then you're not thriving. So yeah, just setting those goals, crushing them, and continuing to do that, and just continue to thrive and crush it.
Heck yeah. That's what we're going to keep doing. I'm looking forward to seeing you in June at the High Rocks, and seeing you and Cam crush it. If you need any tips on that, let me know. At the end of every episode, I give my feedback on what my biggest takeaway was. And because of the point of life that I'm in, I think the word inclusion in conversation and like with my wife and my future child, I think that really hit home with me when you're talking about involving her in the conversation. And I think I need to do, I think I do a good job of that, but I need to reflect on how I do it more frequently. So week over week of being inclusive of, this is what my week looks like. How can I help you? How can I help our son and set y'all up for success? Meanwhile, still continuing to feed my own flame and do the things that I need to do to be the best me. So that hit home a lot. And if anybody else out there listening, if this conversation hit home with you, please share it with somebody that you think it could also help. Let's get Kristian's story out there. I know his words can help some other people, especially some future fathers or father figures that are already learning how to adapt their relationship with their wife and their son or their daughter, and continuing to train hard and aspire to do great things in this world. Last but not least, please give us that 5-star rating and review. It helps us get out to more ears and helps us make the world a better place. This is CJ with the Thrive on Life podcast. Thrive on, y'all.